Why are Diem and her biological father, Aekai, so freaking powerful? We need to start with the elephant in the room. Is Aekai Omnos?
I lean towards yes. Mini history lesson coming in hot. So Omnos was the 10th and youngest of the Kindred siblings who had a crown and realm of his own between Sophos and Montios, now known as the Forgotten Lands. But according to, I'll say semi-lost history, he died a few years after the original foraging. As the Sophos crown says, quote, there are references to the Kindred making a great personal sacrifice to protect the mortals after the foraging. The details were lost to history, but over the years, some Sophos crowns speculated that sacrifice was Omnos. He was the only Kindred who didn't take a mate, so he never gave up his immortality like the others. They also did not believe that he had offspring either. His Kindred siblings were scared of him since he could live forever, unlike them now, and was immune to magic and could steal their magic, which, quick pause, because I was initially confused about this steal their magic concept. But you know what om/omni in Latin means? And Latin is the basis for all of these Kindred realms. Om means everything, and omni means all. So what if the youngest brother's power was all of his 9 siblings' powers? Maybe he obtained their powers by actually stealing from his siblings, or maybe he was just innately the most powerful of them all, and they wanted to have the narrative be that he stole their powers. Whatever the case is, he was apparently the Kindred's sacrifice. Plus, here's a note about Omnos from Montios' diary entry for extra context. Quote, there is a plan, but our youngest will not agree. Our lives are shorter now. We must persuade him before our time expires. I confess, some days I fear him. What happened in our homeland did not scare him as it should have. Instead, he speaks of it with reverence. And of course, the youngest that Montios is speaking of is Omnios. So quick side thought, is the key bit of info about the Kindred curse we don't know yet in relation to their homeland? Like, will Diem learn of this when she takes the Rosebane, which gives her the ability to talk directly to the gods? Anyway, after sacrificing Omnos, all memory of him was wiped from the history books, but his Gryvern was able to escape and go into hiding, which, yes, this is the Gryvern that Aekai has. So now we've walked through Omnos' past. Let's look at Aekai, who is Omnos' apparent offspring, and how he ended up imprisoned on the island. There is only one clue to this answer, a map of the island marking the hidden door with a note that it should never be opened for any reason, dated just after the Blood War. Sophos thinks that maybe the crowns at the time feared Aekai and he would be too powerful, so they lured him to the island where he would have no magic, and there is where they imprisoned him in hopes that Omnos' line would die with him. And you know who was around during the Blood War? The Umbros Queen. That's why she has answers. She might have been one of the ones who literally wrote that warning note. Montios King, who was also alive during the Blood War and was much older than Umbros Queen, left a message from his Kindred ancestor for his heir, but it doesn't seem to provide any hints besides, quote, beware my brother's wrath. And then I'm going off script here because I literally saw this while we were doing this episode. The Umbros Queen says, quote, the Kindred have no mortal blood. Their bodies perish, but they endure. And then Diem asks, like, so they just can't die? And then the Umbros Queen is like, oh, their kind can die, but the Blessed Father kept that detail all to himself.
So what if that's the piece of information we don't know, is how the Kindred can die? And I'm assuming that has to deal with something where it's like the 11 must fall for one to rise. That prophecy.
Yes. We will definitely be getting into that too, because I don't actually think that it's the people. I think that it's the realms.
I think so too, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so with the facts laid out, time to jump into theory land about why Aekai is actually Omnos. What if Omnos was already imprisoned on the island because his siblings couldn't kill him? And this note on the hidden door was some kind of reminder/warning not to let him out. So instead of this note indicating the start of his imprisonment, as Sophos believes, it could actually be a continuation of it. And of course, we know that there are only 2 from Omnos' line that we know of, and that's why Diem and her sire are considered so powerful. But Omnos and Aekai match descriptions so well that I wonder if this history of Omnos dying isn't entirely accurate, and the Umbros Queen knew it.
Interesting. I do want to shift our discussion to what this means for Diem if Omnos is a Aekai, being a daughter of a full-blooded kindred. We know from Alexis's project that she is researching that raw, unmolded godstone that Diem created can only be created by the kindred. So that's honestly right there. If there was nothing else in this entire series, that line right there would be like, okay, so Diem is at least part kindred.
Well, and then we have to look at eye color, of course, because only the kindred, all 9 or 10 of the kindred had gray eyes. And of course, Aekai and Diem both have gray eyes. The kindred passed specifically colored eyes down to their offspring, which they had with their mortal mates. And that's how we have the descended with the unique colored eyes based on their realm and who their kindred was. Aekai with the gray kindred eyes and mortal Arley have Diem, who has brown mortal eyes like her mother's until her magic comes in, and then it turns to the kindred color of gray. So this actually does mean one of two things. It either means Omnos and a mortal had Aekai, but Omnos did not pass down a special eye color to his descended son, so that's why Aeakai's eyes are gray, and therefore Diem's are as well. Or Aekai is Omnos, and as a kindred, he did not give his daughter Diem a different eye color like all the others. I assume because he did not believe in the other kindred's agreed upon plan for the world, as Montios's diary noted.
Well, and going back to only a kindred can create Godstone. Diem created Godstone. If Omnos had a child with a mortal and that was Aekai, that means that Aeakai's blood is already descended, not kindred. Now,
Correct.
Because Aekai and Arley had Diem, that does mean that she, Arley, is a mortal. We'll get into that in a moment, though. So it does mean that no matter what, Diem's blood is not full-blooded kindred, but she would be at least part full-blooded kindred.
Moving on from the gray eyes and back to Aekai and Diem's power. Aekai is able to pull Diem's crowns out from where she hides them with the foraging magic. So it's almost like he has this ultimate power and control over the foraging magic.
Which only kindred can do, right?
Well, again, it goes back into, yes, that was part of the kindred's second magic that we had talked about earlier. And the descended do have that tied to their specific realm's foraging magic. So again, I think it's like that heightened power, that heightened connection because he is an actual kindred or the son of a kindred.
Yes.
Aekai could also reach through the foraging magic in the Forgotten Lands and physically grab, mark, and throw Diem out. Now, I do think that might be because the Forgotten Lands was his space, so it was an amplified foraging magic there. But I have to wonder, can he do that in any of the 9 realms? Or could she do that in any of the 9 realms as well?
Only time will tell, but I hope so.
I'm not sure how, but I think this unique ability with the foraging magic is related to how Diem is connected to all of the kindred versus just the one like the kindred's offspring, aka the descended. To be honest, the foraging magic still kind of confuses me, and I have to wonder if that's on purpose for us readers, where there is missing central information about the foraging magic that ties into the kindred curse.
Yeah, agreed. So all in all, we both believe that Omnos is a Aekai, which means that Diem is a direct descendant from a kindred, making her extra powerful. But we have to ask ourselves, this series, yes, it's called The Kindred's Curse, but every single book is blank of the Everflame. So let's talk about how Everflame and the old gods tie into our story.
The sacred Everflame was considered the tree of life and death, and its leaves were made of flame. It was considered the undying fire. This Everflame tree was located on the island where the Kindred Curse Temple is now, and the Kindred cut it down. This is, of course, also the island where Aekai was imprisoned, and this is where Arley met him and had Diem. More on that in a second. According to the old mortal religion, all life began as sparks from the Everflame that fell to the earth as glowing seeds. The old gods once plucked flames from its branches and gave them as blessings.
We need to talk about Arley's connection to the Everflame, because in almost every depiction of the Everflame, like in paintings and sophos, there is a man painted with the Everflame, but the details of his face are hidden or faded. But notably, he has vibrant red hair that is very similar, almost identical to Arley's, which in Spark, it's mentioned in that first chapter before she goes missing, that her hair color is super unique. Luther says in Heat, while looking at this red-haired man depicted with the Everflame, quote, "With that hair, he must be related to your mother." So is Arley a descendant from the old gods, aka specifically the Everflame?
Well, so yes, I do think she is absolutely tied to this red-haired man, but first we have to wonder who this Everflame man is. Before the Kindred, ancient mortals were great chiefs and monarchs or beloved figures. So could he be someone who is a prominent figure or symbol of the ancient mortals, and because of the mortals' worship of the Everflame and old gods, that is why he is depicted next to the Everflame? Or, and I think this is the more likely answer, is this red-haired man a depiction of an old god who is next to his Everflame tree, and he is one of those old gods who would pick the leaves off and offer them as blessings? Arley collected outlawed old mortal books with many references to the Everflame and the old gods. Did she hold on to these books for reasons beyond just secretly clinging to the ancient faith? Like because she is personally connected to the Everflame and the old gods, and it's a lot more meaningful for her in particular? I do think so, but I also think the answer is more complex than maybe her, I'll say, just being a descendant of the old gods. And I don't mean that in any kind of bad way, but just like I think it is a little bit more complex than that. The red hair and all the mystery surrounding Arley, there's something there with the old gods and the Everflame, hands down.
So in addition to Diem having a part of this would also mean Teller would be a descendant of some sort from the Everflame or Everflame adjacent, whatever that means. So maybe this means that Teller and Arley will have longer lives, and then Teller and Lily can be together for longer. I really hope so.
I don't mean to burst your bubble, but Arley is definitely showing signs of aging, and she's in like her 40s or something.
We
so
don't know how old she is, though. Like, we don't have an age attached to her.
I suppose that is true.
Let me have my hope.
Okay.
I need Teller and Lily to not have a short relationship. That would kill me. Now, if her mother was from the old gods, this would absolutely explain why Diem had that reaction when she touched the Everflame in the Sophos library.
Well, her mother being a descendant aside, or maybe it amplifies it. Are you ready to have your mind blown?
Lexi, I am so ready to have my mind blown.
I was reading this line and it made my jaw drop. So from Heat, chapter 35, as Diem is in Umbros's library and looking through stories of the Everflame, quote, "Pregnant mothers would risk their lives to travel the sea once labor began, believing a child born on the Everflame's blessed soil would be imbued with its sacred power of life." Yeah.
And Coriel is where that is, yes?
Yes, that is exactly where it is. So Diem was literally born on the island where the Everflame used to be, because again, remember, it was taken down by the Kindred. And so she is literally a child born on the Everflame's blessed soil. So is that why she has the Everflame power of life, and that's why it reacts the way that it does when she touches it? Is this why she is the one destined to bring balance between the Everflame and the Kindred?
Because she literally is the balance. She is both of them.
Yes.
But then why is it that Arley's hair matches this dude of the Everflame?
I think that it could be like one big thing of destiny playing into it, where it is his descendant found herself on this soil to give birth to a child. Because remember, that was definitely not part of her mission. And it was like all of the pieces fell into place. The descendant of this Everflame man ended up having a child born on the soil with a Kindred.
Oh my God.
And then now we're in this situation that everybody was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Like, they've been waiting for Diem. Even on the foraging day before, like on the first page of Spark, there was a blood moon. And so it was like calling that things were about to change in this world.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. So a few rapid fire questions. Do you think that this is the reason the Heartstone cracked when her blood was spilled on it? Because she has both sides of the magic. Or do you think it's solely because of the kindred blood?
I do think that's mostly because of the kindred blood, because she has the 10th kindred's blood, and that was not part of, I'll say, the spell that was supposed to be in place. And so that like really threw things off. However, I do think that her being, I'll say, a daughter of the Everflame, for lack of a better word, I think that that is almost like her tether for the mortals and her representing the mortals, and then her connection to the kindred and that deeper connection with the foraging magic and such. And that is why she is so connected to the descended. And that is why she is ultimately the one to bring these two peoples together to restore balance.
Okay, well, my head is absolutely freaking out and spinning, and I will be thinking about that at 2 a.m. Thank you very much.
I was literally just like, like parsing through, like, and I was using like my ebook, like searches and stuff like that. And I like read this sentence and I was like,
this is why you are the archive surreal girl. Like, this is why you are the person. Oh my God, you are so smart.